going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Comeback Journey podcast. Here with me today is Tom. We met through Facebook, actually, and we've been keeping in contact, and he's a really cool guy, and I'm really excited to have him on here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the weather differences between San Diego and Michigan. It's pretty cold out there.
Yeah, it's bright and sunny, but it's 40 degrees. I walked to work this morning and feel pain in your ears.
Oh,
you know, I mean, I'll take it. I like the snow and I like to play, in the cold. So,
yeah,
it's.
I lived in Illinois for a few months a couple of years ago, and it was not for me. It was I went out there, I had just a couple sweatshirts and a couple pairs of jeans, and I was not prepared.
Are you from San Diego then?
Yeah, I'm from here, but both of my parents are from Illinois. So
okay.
My dad lives out there, so I went out there for about 5 months a couple of years ago.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So did you grow up in Michigan?
Yeah, I grew up about 10 miles from here. And so I grew up on the west side of Grand Rapids, which is about 10 minutes from here, probably 30 minutes from Lake Michigan, about 3 hours from Chicago.
And you've been there your whole life in Michigan?
Yeah, I moved to Mount Pleasant for a couple of years. I did some undergraduate work in psychology at Central Michigan University, but small town, it was difficult to find work, so I just moved home, and I like it here. It's cold, it's hot, it's all different seasons. There's all kinds of stuff to do. Semi-pro hockey, semi-pro baseball. I mean, it's a great place to be. It's no San Diego, but I'll take it.
That's the only downside of San Diego is that there's not really any seasons. It's the same year round, which is nice, but I feel like I take it for granted because I don't really know anything else.
Oh, sure.
So when you grew up, then how many siblings do you have?
I've got one sister that's about 2 years younger than me, a little less.
Okay. I have a brother that's 2 years older.
Okay.
Does she still live out there?
Yeah, I don't know where. I know she lives somewhere on the west side, but it was a difficult relationship growing up, so we're just not on speaking terms.
Is that how long has it been since you've spoken to her?
Christmas of 1987.
1987, so it's been a long time.
Oh yeah, a long time. She's got a couple boys I've never met, but I've got 7 nieces and nephews, so that kind of fills that gap,
Yeah. Do you have kids of your own?
No, I don't. I just I've got 3 cats and 3 dogs. And so my wife was a vet tech for when I met her. So even though I'm in an actual city, it's kind of like being on a farm. Cats and dogs everywhere.
Yeah, that's cool. Was that like a choice that you had made a long time ago to not have kids, or did you just it just never happened?
No, it just never happened. I mean, we did try to adopt once, but I was in the Army, and we were going to adopt a special needs kid, not necessarily developmentally disabled, but one that was a little older, whatnot. And they said no, because it was a very high chance, especially in, back then, with Desert Storm and stuff going on, that I could be sent overseas and likely not come back. And so we just said the heck with it. And so now to fill that gap, I go to Ada Bible Church and I work with kids. And so it's a blast because, after about an hour or so, then you can send them home to their parents, and I don't have any repercussions.
Yeah. That's similar to like how I feel. Like I don't want kids of my own, but I'm totally cool being the cool uncle,
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Yeah. You can play with them for a little bit and then you can give them back. There's minimal responsibility.
Heck yes.
So growing up in Michigan, was it you have a decent childhood, or your parents were they married while you were growing up?
Yeah, but they might as well have gotten divorced. We lived in a bi-level home, and Mom was upstairs watching TV, and Dad was downstairs watching TV. And it wasn't all bad. It's just he liked to watch the Tigers, the Lions, the Pistons. My mom didn't. So they just bought two TVs and pretty much were just living together. And so growing up here for me was great, but I have no ties to home. So I didn't have any rules. I came and went as I pleased, which was good and bad. But it was all right. I was by myself a lot, so I learned to hunt and fish, and like to be outdoors. And learned to play hockey when I was 4 by skating on a pond that was about knee deep that had a bunch of trees. So I learned to kind of dazzle in and out because a tree is not going to move when you get hit by one when you hit one. So
You said you taught yourself how to hunt and how to fish?
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I've been fishing a couple times, but I've never been hunting.
Oh, it's an addiction. The year after my grandfather died in February, probably 15, 20 years ago, and the following November 15th in Michigan is like a holy day. It's like Christmas, Easter, and opening day. And my uncle said, Tommy, come out in the woods, with us. Okay, and he had the blaze orange, typical redneck, deer hunting suit, and sat me down in the woods. And I was out there before dark. It was probably 5:30, and all of a sudden it just sounded like thunder. Like it was just unreal. But from the back of me, about 6 o'clock, coming to about 10 o'clock, 4 doe ran within 5 yards of me, just running full speed, and it sounded like a cattle rush of cattle or something, and it was just spooky. And it was probably 7:30 in the morning. I swear on my life, I could feel my grandfather who had passed away last February put his left hand on my shoulder with 3 fingers, and it was just a whole total Ted Nugent, Fred Bear thing. It was just it's an addiction. And then a few years later, I met my wife, and her dad loves to hunt and fish, so he's kind of become my hunting buddy, even though he's 75 years old. Enjoy that time while I still got it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool that you have that that you had that connection with your grandfather, and then also with your father-in-law. That's a nice
Yes.
like bonding experience.
Yes.
What about your own dad? He wasn't into hunting at all?
No, he back in the 50s and 60s, they didn't have Under Armour like they do today. So you'd walk out in a down coat, sweat to death, and then you'd sit down and you're got sweat dripping off your face from that down, and then all of a sudden it's 15 below zero, and you start freezing to death. So by the time I come around, they had thermal boots and Under Armour this and all that. So you just literally don't feel anything. But however, my dad did like to fish. He grew up in Manistee, which is about 90 minutes north of here, right on Lake Michigan. So I do have good memories of going with him and that grandfather. Not in hunting, but we go out on Lake Michigan and catch salmon like it was nothing. I mean, it was a lot of fun because Grandpa was retired, so he got the boat ready and got everything ready. My dad gets out of work at 4 o'clock, and we're up there by 6:30, and by 7 o'clock, we're out on the water for 3 hours. And there's just nothing like it, landing on 18-pound Chinook salmon. You feel pain in your wrists and your elbows and your hips just trying to hold the thing in. You think 18 pounds ain't that heavy, but it's something,
Yeah, I mean,
really,
18 pounds doesn't seem like a lot until it's 18 pounds like trying to pull away from you.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, that was a lot of fun. And my mom's family's from Muskegon, which is 45 minutes from here, and that's another port city, both of them on Lake Michigan. So, with fishing, I was fortunate enough to kind of have access near me. And I live 2 blocks. If you looked at a map of the city of Grand Rapids, there's a river, the Grand River, that flows right up center of town, and I'm 2 city blocks off of it. If I stand on my roof, I can see it from my house. And so there's a little tributary that flows up to Lamberton Lake, which is 5 minutes from here, and that tributary goes right on the north edge of my property. So if I look up, like, I can see it from where I sit. It's only knee deep, but and there's no fish in there, but maybe someday.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So, are your parents still around in Michigan?
Yeah, they live in the same house I grew up in, about 15 minutes from here. And so I don't get over there much. I just don't have a reason to. It just, my wife goes over there. My wife does home health care, and both of my folks are 75 years old. So she goes over there, and like, she found some rugs that were a tripping hazard to them, and she had me go over there and install a shower bar for them, just to kind of take care of them, because they just don't get around like they used to. And so she knows what to look for. I mean, I work in a continuing care facility, but I'm just a trade jockey. I'm just a food guy. So I get paid to feed people. Well, she does the real actual work.
So you said you don't go over there a whole lot. Is that because you just don't have the time, or you guys kind of drifted over the years?
Yeah, we drifted. My dad was a baseball player, and in high school, and I played hockey and rugby, and I was in the Golden Gloves for 17 years. It's just we're just two different people. We don't hate each other. We just are just two different people. And what was ironic about that, I was talking with my father-in-law a long time ago, and he had the same thing. He loved his dad, got along with his dad great. His dad was a wonderful guy, but his dad just wasn't into hunting and fishing and some of the other outdoors things that him and I were. So it was kind of like a neat little pattern to find.
Yeah, that's cool. So you mentioned a little earlier that you were in the Army.
Yes.
And when we had talked before a couple of weeks ago, I commented that it was rare. I thought that it was rare that you joined the Army at the age that you did.
Yes. I was 36 years old. They told me I couldn't. So I said, want to bet? And I did. I signed a waiver at 36 years old, and I did it anyway. My bunkmate, Rafael Romero, is from Colorado Springs. He was 17. He told me he was 17, and we all kind of laughed. I said, man, I got underwear older than you are. But the best thing I ever did. I miss it. It really wasn't hard. You go to bed at 9 o'clock, you're up at 4 a.m. I pretty much do that now. As long as you shut up. Of course, I was 36. When I was 17, I couldn't shut up. That was part of the problem. But it was wonderful. I was stationed at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. I left Michigan, and it was October 2008, and it was 65 degrees. I got down to Columbia, South Carolina. It was 110 and humid. I thought I was going to die. I was expecting me to burst into flames by supper time, but I survived. I dropped 75 pounds when I was there, but you're always moving, always marching. I learned a lot about rifles, discipline. I learned more in the Army than I did in college. More about life in the Army than I did in college.
Yeah, that's I think that's a big argument right now. Like whether or not college teaches you the skills that you need to survive in the real world.
I don't think so. I mean, it teaches you skills, yeah. It's like going to Lowe's or Home Depot and buying tools. It isn't any good unless you know how to use them. Coupled college with Army, and I do believe that's part of my success. I mean, I went as a specialist, so I kind of had an idea of some things ahead of time. Granted, I was 36, so I lived a lot more life than most of the kids were about 21, 22. But even some of the drill sergeants were about 3 or 4 years younger than me. But that was kind of awkward. But still, at 36, I wasn't the oldest one in my platoon. There was a lady from Louisiana, 41 years old,
Wow.
and fenced everything. It was unreal. I'd never seen, and, you know, she was kind of a pretty lady in decent shape, but nothing, you know, doesn't look like an Olympic champion, and she did it and passed anyway. I mean, it was unreal.
So when you said you were you went in as a specialist, what
Yeah.
specialty did you focus on?
Well, that's a rank. That's an E4 as a specialist, private first class specialist, and then through the Michigan Volunteer Defense Force, basically the Michigan Militia, I earned my E5. So I was a sergeant when I didn't really retire. I just ETS, ended my time of service. So my special was NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. So they paid me to play with explosives.
And did that tie in at all to your degree while you were in college?
No, but the degree helped me earn a couple extra ranks that I probably would have went in as a private first class instead of just a private. So that bumped me up from an E1 or E2 to an E4. And so the only reason I did it was for the signing bonus, you know, so it was fun, you know, and now that's actually coming in handy with the whole COVID and all that.
What's coming in handy?
The NBC Experience.
Oh.
Yeah. Cleanups and just studying germs and, you know, just being careful. You know, it kind of came back. I never thought I'd ever use it, but of course, nobody ever saw this coming. So,
right. Are you still working right now?
Yeah. I work for Spectrum Health. It's the largest employer in Michigan, 31,000 employees. And I'm fortunate. I work 3 miles from home. I work first shift in the kitchen, so I don't make that much per hour, but I get to eat breakfast and lunch every day. I'm there, and I can get overtime if I want it, but there just isn't a whole lot, especially right now.
Right. Yeah,
So,
you know, I've worked in restaurants for a long time, and like that's at least for me, like a huge benefit was like even if I wasn't making as much money, like I got free food.
that's exactly, and that's
You know?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the little things, you know?
Yeah. Well, the patients that we serve some are diabetic, some are salt restricted, some have chewing issues. So it has to be good food. It isn't Burger King, McDonald's, you know. They I think my favorite, they made a stuffed pepper soup. Oh man, unbelievable. Yeah, that is definitely a perk.
So what's your experience been like since this whole pandemic came about? Like is Michigan on like super restricted lockdown right now as well?
It's supposed to be, but you can't really go anywhere after work because everything's closed. You know,
Yeah.
or they have limited hours. Meijer, local grocery store, is usually open 24 hours. They're open like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Not sure how that's supposed to help, but all that means is we got to make a little more effort and get to the store, you know, before it gets too late. But when I was growing up, that was their hours anyway. So really, it's like hanging out back in 1979. You know.
Oh. So is your wife working as well? You said she was like in a similar field, right?
Yeah, she does home health care, and she takes care of a quadriplegic guy that's 1 day a week, but that's a block from the house. And my folks, my mom and dad, are paying her under the table to come over there and take care of them because it would cost them a lot more money per hour to have one of the companies come in, you know, like a Visiting Angels or something like that. So it's kind of a win. So she just goes over there and makes sure they take their medicine, or, you know, because they're not going to listen to me. But again, you know, she was, you know, cleaning the house up a little bit and, you know, doing stuff like that. But, you know, it's kind of a win-win. So really, with this whole COVID thing, our lives haven't changed all that much. I don't know if it's good or bad, but saving a lot of money because I can't go anywhere and, blow it all.
Yeah, my experience hasn't really changed a whole lot either. I was managing at a restaurant, and the restaurant closed, but I was looking to leave anyways, so it just kind of streamlined the process for me. And I'm just I've just been doing as many podcasts as I can while I have all of this free time, and kind of solidify my skill set, make sure that I have enough content to where if I have to go back to work and I can't do 6 podcasts a week, that I have enough to sustain 2 podcasts a week for the foreseeable future.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we had talked a little bit over Facebook about this goal, this huge accomplishment that you had trained for and then completed.
Yes.
You want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, that was for 30 years I drove a truck, and it was great. But then November 2nd, 2016, I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't breathe. When literally the whole bit. My wife's like, "What's wrong?" I don't know. It's probably 10 o'clock at night. I get out, walk around the block. I felt better, come back to bed. It happened a couple more times. So the second time, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to get up for work at 4, so I just said, well, I'll just go into work anyway. There's always something you can do. And I got up, showered, took off, and still having a little hard time breathing, but better than it was. And before I left, she was like, why don't you stop to the hospital and ask them? I thought, yeah, I'll do that. So there was a hospital a mile away from where I worked, and I popped in thinking they're going to give me some aspirin and say, go back to work, you big sissy. And turns out they kept me. They kept me overnight. And turns out I had blood clots in my leg and in my lung. When my wife got to the hospital, she's all upset, and naturally so. And I'm laying in the bed. The doctor comes in and says, it's a good thing you come in when you did. And I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, glad I could help pay for your boat, And he said, 1 week, maybe a month, you'd be dead. Okay, you got my attention. What he was telling me was that the clots in my lung, the clots in my leg would have went to my lung, which would have pushed the ones in my lung up to my brain, and I would have had a stroke and probably been dead. Okay, now you got my attention. So I started eating right and doing everything the way you're supposed to. And through a buddy at work, I discovered triathlon. I played hockey my whole life. I never swam except, playing beach volleyball or whatever. And so I entered this sprint triathlon. I didn't know how to swim, so I thought I better learn. And we went to the pool at 4:30 in the morning, swam for about an hour, and then I, got in the shower and went to work. I worked 10, 12 hours driving a truck. And I entered a sprint triathlon about a half an hour away from here, and I came in dead last. But I still came in front of 12 people that never finished. And it was just something I never did. I set the bar so high that nobody at work, they're like, yeah, right, he'll probably no-show. I thought, man, I dropped $50. I'm not going to no-show on this. And it turns out I won a brand new bike. They raffled all our bibs out. I got a 2016 felt racing bike. It's like 8 pounds. It's unreal. I got a lunchbox that's heavier than that. But I got addicted to it, and now the future goal, I don't know if time permits or not. I'd like to finish an Ironman, which is, what I did was about a half a mile swim, a 17-mile bike ride, and then a 5K, about a 3-mile run. A full Ironman is a 2.5-mile swim, 117-mile bike ride, and then a full marathon, 26.2. And what got me hooked was that summer, shortly before the race, I went down to Benton Harbor, which is down by the state line, and I saw the Steelhead half Ironman. And there's guys that look just like me, pot-bellied, whatnot, and they're crossing the finish line. I was like, man, if they can do it, I know I can. I mean, yeah, it requires work. I'm not saying that, but I thought, man, they're crossing the finish line with 10 speeds and older bikes and stuff. I thought it had to be these, $10,000 triathlon bikes. I mean, yeah, I'd like one, but no, that's not going to happen. And yeah, triathlon basically, it saved my life because I just got hooked up with these quality people that are always cheering you on. From that first race, I'm still friends to this day with the race director because he found out it was my first race and a little bit of my background. And now I got the medal hanging up, and I look back on it like, yeah, that was the hardest thing I did. Boot camp wasn't even that difficult compared to that. But I didn't have to swim there. And so, yeah, it just became an addiction. And fast forward another year, I got blood clots again. And so the doctors did a blood test, and it turns out I have too much protein in my blood, which causes the blood to clot. Because of that, I can handle cold weather. I go outside to shovel the driveway with just a sweatshirt on because it just doesn't bother me. Well, it makes sense now, but because of that, I can't drive a truck anymore. You're sitting in that same position 12, 14 hours every day. I was home every night. I wasn't over the road, but it just was the perfect storm. I mean, I'm 48 years old. I got that protein blah, blah, blah going on. They told me, but I don't understand all that. All my education's from the neck up. And, they told me that I got the clots. I got all this protein going on. You better find something different. So I took my time. They gave me a nice severance package, but they took my time and landed this job at the hospital 3 miles from my house. And the hospital that I work for owns the insurance company that I got my insurance through. So, I mean, it's win-win-win. And, like we were talking about with restaurants, I don't make that much an hour, but I work with good people. I get breakfast and lunch every day because I work for a shift, and great hours, like 6 to 3, 6 to 2:30. I mean, yeah, I got to work tomorrow, Mother's Day, but I mean, I'll be home by, 2:45. That's not so bad.
Yeah, that's but I feel like that must have been a scary experience, right? To find out about the blood clots and then to get them again.
Yes.
But I heard one of my mom's really good friends, she's a flight attendant, and I guess blood clots are real common with them as well because they're a lot of time they're just sitting all day with their knees bent, and that's, I guess, is something that can fast track the formation of blood clots.
Exactly.
So it makes sense that you said you were driving a truck for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So this this Ironman, that sounds intense.
Mm-hmm.
That's I've never done even a half marathon. I try to somewhat keep in shape, but I've never done anything like that. I was just a few days ago, I was in Arizona visiting my girlfriend, and she said that she wanted to do a marathon. And I was like, okay, well then I guess, I'll do it with you. But man, I don't even know if I could run 2 miles right now. And a marathon's like 26 miles.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a long process of training and getting in shape for that.
Yeah. It's a tough draw, but I mean, if I can accomplish a sprint from sitting on my butt driving a truck, there's no reason I can't accomplish that now.
Yeah, that's good.
When I switched my job here, I walk around the hospital now, so I dropped 30 pounds in 2 months. And so all it did was just add fuel to the fire. And I got one of my coworkers interested in doing one just today, actually. She told me, she was like, yeah, if you do one, I'll do one with you. Okay. I mean, I'll be waiting for you at the finish line. She told me to shut up, but that's a whole nother story. But it's just an addiction. Watching YouTube videos. I was listening to podcasts in the truck because that Crushing Iron was a huge one that I really got into. I mean, they take it serious, but yet they have fun with it. They're not so overly competitive. Mm-hmm. With like I was saying before, I played hockey since I was 4. I can't do that anymore because I have to take blood thinners. And if I get hit just right, I could bleed internally, and that probably wouldn't end very well for me neither. And so I just took the next best challenging thing. And I mean, there really is no downside to it other than the time it takes to prepare. But is that really a downside? I've never once left a gym, finished a run, finished a swim, or got off my bike and wished I hadn't done it. Not once.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I think another important aspect is, you said that, there's all these people that you've met and made connections with that are, cheering you on and supportive and kind of like hyping you up. I think that's like a major key aspect of life, is like the people you surround yourself with. You have people that are gonna tell you like, oh no, like you shouldn't do that, you can't do that, like what are you thinking? That's over time, that's gonna really like dig in, and you're gonna internalize that. But if you have people around you that are like, yeah man, like you can do it, like you can do anything, like just put in a little more work, and the opportunities are endless. And it makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anytime I've got questions, I just I'm part of a couple of triathlon Facebook groups, and popped in, asked about these certain kind of wheels for my bike, or how do I fix this, and there's always somebody that knows how to do something, and it's they always sending you motivational videos, or there's just always something. So if you start feeling a little bit off or a little bit down, you just log on, and 5 minutes later, I'm right back to 100%, kind of like charging your phone almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I had that in hockey too, but it's just a different world. I mean, I'm almost 50 now, so, the average player's 24, 25. So, that time waved bye-bye to me a long time ago anyway. I was just playing for fun the last few years, but I kind of like this better, I mean, the only downside is, during a swim or something, I can't come up alongside somebody and cross-check them in the head or anything, but, that's just part of the game. It is what it is. So, I learned to curse in English and French. So, that was a benefit playing hockey, but, met a lot of great guys, cool, wonderful people. Even, probably 15 years ago, got to meet my boyhood idol, Daryl Sittler, at the Hall of Fame in Toronto. And we got our picture with the Stanley Cup, and him. And I was just mesmerized. And my wife's like shaking his hand saying, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm just, like a little kid going, "Oh." Daryl still holds the record to this day. He scored 10 points in one game. Nobody's beat it, not even Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, that's I mean, I don't know a whole lot about hockey, but I feel like the average score of a hockey game is like 3.
Yeah, 3 to 2, 4 to 5, whatever. Yeah.
So what are I know we touched on like you want to do an Ironman in the future, but like what else? Do you have anything else you're looking forward to, or any other goals that you're looking to accomplish in the future?
Yeah, work. The building I work in is probably 100 years old. And so what they're going to do over the next 3 years is they're going to basically tear it down and make 3 or maybe even 4 different facilities, acute care, blah, 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 according to what level of care a patient might need. So I have a degree in psychology, and just this past November, I got accepted to a graduate program at Michigan State, and that would allow me to work in HR, or maybe even take over one of those kitchens. I told, we got 2 managers at work today, and I told the main manager that I want the other one's job. And he looked at me like, "You're serious, aren't you?" Well, yeah. And if I don't, I've learned one thing about me: if I don't set a goal that is so hard for me to get, I just become lackadaisical, and it's just as easy not to do as it is to do. So I like the big challenge. I like the fight. I mean, that's just how I am. and I'm just going to keep going with it. So yeah, I expect to be promoted at work. This whole COVID thing threw kind of a monkey wrench in that, but doesn't really matter. I like where I work. I like what I do. I mean, yeah, I wish I wouldn't have to work weekends, but if that's all I got, I still got days off during the week. So really, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And with that many employees, there's a lot of different positions that I could go to. They're everywhere up here. Spectrum Health bought a lot of different buildings, and they own almost everything here. It was almost like a monopoly, but it's a good place to be in. I got this job through LinkedIn, just kind of networking with a guy. I saw this guy, and I didn't know who he was. Victor. He was an HR guy at Spectrum. Okay, so I made a connection request with him, and I sat down here one day about 10 o'clock in the morning, and he said, hey, we're having a hiring blitz at 1 o'clock. Why don't you come down to the hospital? Okay. So I printed out my resume. I waited 2 hours before I finally got in, because I got down there, long before they opened up, and I walked out with the job I have now. Never looked back. They asked me questions like, why do you want to work in a kitchen? And I told them, well, I drove a truck for 30 years, blood clots, near death, blah, blah, blah. This is my chance to do something I wanted to do. And so they just opened the doors wide up. Here I am.
That's awesome. That's what's the word I'm looking for? Tenacity, like just going after what you want, regardless of like any opposition in your way, like with the guy on LinkedIn, like what if you hadn't sat down that morning and saw that message? What if you had seen it, a couple days later and they're not hiring anymore, or, there's all these different factors that come into play, but it seems like everything just lined up for you. And, now you said, you got accepted to a graduate program.
Yes. At the Eli Broad College of Business at Michigan State. It's an HR certification. So it's basically an add-on to my bachelor's degree, but it would qualify me to work in HR, and HR works Monday to Friday. They don't work weekends. It's not that I do that much on weekends, but they have special classes you got to take, and HIPAA this and that, and I would teach those classes, with a laptop and a projector, and, just make it fun. I kind of would also like to speak someday and kind of tell my story about the clots. I asked the guys at my church about it, and the pastor there moved on to another church, so kind of got to start all over again, but that's all right. Can't do nothing. We can't even go to church now anyway. So
yeah,
I just I'll get the chance eventually. I just got to keep remembering, keep digging, keep trying, endure, push, pursue. And I also learned a lot. A few years ago, I took the Dale Carnegie course, and I didn't realize how much it cost. It was almost $2,000. So I was like, uh-oh, I made a mistake and didn't read the whole contract. And I took that course. I paid cash out of pocket for it, 12 weeks, and I learned so much about public speaking and this and that, and I had so much fun that they asked me to come back and teach it as a graduate assistant. So I taught for 4 years. I was actually teaching some of the HR people that I work with now. And so they don't remember me because, so much life has happened, but that was also quite a big challenge. I was never really afraid to talk in front of people so much, but I just didn't like to do it. Now I could walk in any arena in front of 20,000 people and, I got the mic. You don't.
Oh, that's awesome. So, can you explain the Dale Carnegie course for anybody that doesn't know what that is?
Yeah, it's Dale had passed away in the 50s, but it's he has principles and rules that people try to live by. Affirmations, like the first one is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And in his book, you could get at the public library for free, or you could probably even buy it at the library on Amazon for $1 or $2, worth every single penny. He's talking about smiling and just presenting yourself in such a way as to win friends and influence people. Now, granted, the book was written in 1936, so they updated it a little bit, and it's talking about your image on social media. Some things you post you think are funny and your friends think are funny, but maybe your employer might not. So it just says, hey man, be careful. Everything you do, everything you say matter. Words have power. Words have meaning. And so to go through life with lackadaisical speech and just blasting off at whatever, it isn't going to serve you very well. And I've had some things happen in the past, but that was long before I knew about any of this.
That sounds like an incredible program. I haven't read the book. We were talking about this a little bit, because you said you'll send me one, but I have one of my buddies has it, so it's on my list. Like I have this list of books that I want to read, and the other one that we had discussed was Jordan Peterson's book, the 12 Rules for Life.
Yeah,
and there's such incredible value in those books. For the longest time, I didn't read books like that. Like I love to read, but I was just reading, for fun. Nothing of real substance. Which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think to start ingesting these concepts and philosophies from other people who quote unquote figured it out, it goes a long way.
Absolutely. And going back to triathlon for a moment, diet isn't just what you eat or drink. And so it's the shows you watch, it's the music you listen to. Yeah, I go to church. Yes, I love Jesus, but I'm not going to be, going down, standing, hollering at the top of my lungs. You should just preaching and stuff. You just be careful what you watch. Do I really need to listen to this? What is it saying? Just using gangster rap as an example. I don't listen to that because I don't like it. But some of the stuff they say, geez, I don't know if I want to hear some of that, but maybe I'm just getting too old.
Maybe. I mean, I really enjoy rap music, but I'm real selective about what I listen to. I more listen to it for the lyrics, like if they have substance behind them, and a like a foundation and a message. That's the music that I enjoy listening to. But
absolutely,
I haven't really been listening to a whole lot of music lately. I've been just diving in on podcasts, and I have an audiobook that I just got recently called Deep Work by Cal Newport.
Okay.
It's really good. It's distinguishing between these two separate sides of the spectrum of shallow work and deep work. And deep work is, basically anything that's going to require intense concentration and like learning and developing skills. And shallow work is everything else. So like checking your email or, sending a text message or going on social media, it's all shallow work. But if you can, set aside X amount of time every day with zero distractions and fully focus on what it is that you want to improve on or what it is you want to learn, that's where the deep work comes into play. And it's been really great for me because I have struggled and still struggle with getting distracted easily. Like if I see a notification on my phone pop up, like most of the time I'll just reach over and grab it and check it no matter what I'm doing. So I started, this was, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I started putting my phone on airplane mode when I go to sleep, and I don't turn it off of airplane mode until I've woken up and like completed my morning routine and like done what I have to do, and then I turn my phone back on.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's actually it makes a lot of difference. At least it has for me. It's helped with, because a lot of times I'll be laying in my bed just on my phone, right up until I go to sleep. And
Yeah.
that just floods you with all these distractions, and it's flooding you with dopamine, and you're getting those little hits of, and I would do the same thing in the morning. My alarm would go off, and I would just grab my phone, turn my alarm off, and then like lay there for a minute and start scrolling through my social media or my email or check my text messages. And now if I turn on airplane mode, like I have to consciously go into my settings and turn airplane mode off. And it's just an extra step to keep me from giving into those impulses,
Yeah, it's a distraction. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a funny story about that. I had my phone plugged in the kitchen, and I heard a notification or something go off. And we were watching TV. I looked over at my wife. She's sitting on the couch texting somebody. I don't know. We weren't, it wasn't no big deal. I get up. So I thought, well, she's on her phone. I'll go see what it is. I go in the kitchen. I pick up my phone, and it's a text from her. And it says, "Since you're in the kitchen, bring me a bottle of Coke, would you?" I mean, what do you say to that? I wish I would have up, but that's yes. And so technology can work against you too.
Yeah, it's really all about, technology is an incredible tool, but it's also like the biggest distraction. So it's important to find that balance for, everyone should find the balance for them individually. It's not like a one size fits all, and it's I'm trying to shift from like consuming and trying to produce more, and instead of just all my time consuming all of this nonsense, and instead putting more out there. And it's the main difference it's made for me is like, for one, I think a lot more. Like I'm not just like on autopilot, mindlessly ingesting this stuff. I have to, if I'm putting something out onto social media or out on the internet somewhere, like I have to actually put thought into what it's going to be so that there's some value behind it.
Yes. I've learned similar in that I don't, when I plan my day out, I write it down. I don't use my phone and plug into the calendar and all this and that. I wasn't all that long ago, I found out that my wife can access my phone and put important dates in there, so I just don't turn that on. But I mean, she's not overbearing. I'm not saying that, but if I'm on my phone to check my appointments, I'm going to start checking social media and then go right back to those distractions. So yes, I just want to use it for its intended purpose. And it's kind of a blessing where at work, my kitchen's in the basement, so we don't get a signal, or it's very hard to get one unless you're up on one of the top floors, and I don't really leave the kitchen all that much. I mean, every now and then. So I just shut my phone off, and I've actually liked it better, when I can just focus on this, concentrating on being where you are. When I was driving a truck, I was always worried about what was going on at home. When I'm at home, I was always worried about what am I going to do tomorrow when I'm driving a truck. Well, no wonder why I'm always running, always tired, always back and forth, and I like the thought of unplugging, and going out in the woods fishing for 4 hours, and you're just out there, and it's just you and the water and the babbling brook. I mean, that's what it was like when we were kids. And I think the pendulum's just swung too far the other way. We got to get back to some of that. I mean, all this stuff is great, but I think a lot of it is being used for purposes that it's not supposed to be. Facebook was meant to visit your friends and see pictures of your relatives' kids back in the day, from across the country. It's not a political platform, but that's what a lot of people's turned it into, at least on my feed anyway. I don't want to hear that. Besides, they're all liars, every one of them. So,
yeah, it's I think what you said about like unplugging and just like being present in the moment. is, I feel, not as prevalent as it should be. You know, a couple weeks ago, I went out, a buddy of mine, we went out up into the mountains, like 45 minutes or an hour away from here, and stayed up there for a couple days. And, you know, we had our phones on, you know, some of the time, but for one of the days, you know, we turned our phones off and just like went on a hike, you know, through the mountains. And
Wow.
it was so nice to just like relax and not have to worry about like, oh, did somebody like my picture on Instagram, or like, is somebody missing a phone call? Like, who texted me? You know, like, you just don't have to worry about that. You're just you're just there in the moment, and you don't have to worry about anything else.
I liked, and I liked what you were saying that too. Is this really important? You know, if I put a picture of my dog, yeah, it's cute, but does it really matter if somebody likes it or not? Not really. You know, maybe grandma or something, but yeah, I've also come to learn that I filled a lot of my time with irrelevant activities. You know, watching TV when I could be reading. Now, really, I'd rather read than watch TV. But again, like you were saying, with just reading for fun, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you read for fun and never read of anything that you can use, I just don't see a purpose in that. I'd like to see a purpose in almost everything that I do. There's a reason that I do everything that I do. There's a reason I get up early and run, or you know, there's a reason I don't go to McDonald's or Burger King except very rarely. You know, it serves a purpose. And pretty much with everything, you know, if I go to the gas station, go inside, and I see the soda sitting there. I don't know if it's pop or soda in San Diego, but
Yeah, it's soda. It's soda, but I grew up, my parents said pop. So
yeah, soda. I call it soda as well. But you know, you look at it. Is this going to serve what I want to do? You know, if I sleep in tomorrow, is that going to serve what I want to do? Sometimes, yes. You know, if I eat 5 hot dogs, is that going to serve what? If I read this book that I just don't really care about, is that going to serve a purpose for me, or am I just filling time? Life's too short to just fill time.
That's
you know, you gotta live with a purpose, live meaningful. You know, because you know, like I had learned myself with the blood clots, you could wake up one day and just not be here. Too late. But I still got to do this. Sorry, man. You know, you're on your way upstairs or downstairs, well, however it works. You know.
Yeah, that's
Well, and that's why, you know, make that phone call, talk to your buddy, send that letter, tell some girl at the restaurant she looks pretty or whatever. You know, that could make their whole day. You just never know when it's gone. You're not going to get a warning.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like you said, like, you don't know, like, one comment could make somebody's day. And on the flip side of that, like, you know, if somebody's already having a bad day, and you know, you go in somewhere and make some snide negative comment to somebody, and that could affect them. They're not just gonna like brush that off, you know, that's gonna stick with them. Like, and then I think on the opposite side of, you know, if you compliment somebody or call somebody out of the blue that you haven't talked to in a long time and catch up and, you know, ask how they are, and like that carries, that has that ripple effect, you know, and it'll continue to flow out to other people. And I think that's really important.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I so recently learned how important words are, and just saying something. I've seen today, and a lot of these kids that I work with at church and stuff, and even some of the people at work, that there's an absence of emotion. They just don't seem to get angry, or if they get angry, they just look at you and be quiet. Make the effort and talk to people. Go out there. Just, you know, it's not for your benefit, it's for them. But in doing something for them, it somehow comes back to you. It's give and receive. It's not give and get. You're not saying somebody's pretty with a purpose, although that did work with my wife. But I just at one point she mentioned, please God, I'll go to Africa or anywhere, but I'll never go out with Tom. Surprise. But make the effort, or if you're at the gas stations and somebody throws a cup on the ground or something, pick it up, bring your shopping cart back. It's the little bitty day-to-day things that matter. It's people want to change the world, but they want to do all these grand schemes. And if you want to change the world, you start with little bit by little bit. Pay for the car behind you the next time you're in a drive-through. Mm-hmm. I mean, that happened to me a couple times, and so I just kind of pay it forward kind of thing. I can't harp on that enough. And it took me a long time to learn that. I had to learn all this by myself because growing up, I was never exposed to any of this. Now, granted, I had a buddy that whose dad taught Dale Carnegie back in the 60s, but we listened to the tapes. But I mean, when you're 13, 14, it just doesn't, you have nothing to use it with, or very little. That was only for Amway salesmen back in the day. But now it's a whole different world. I mean, of course, 13 compared to 48.
Yeah. That even 13 to 21. That's going to be a big mental difference. But
yes.
I really like what you said about the paying it forward and doing stuff not for you but for other people, and in doing that, it will come back to you.
Oh yeah. I brought my bike, and that bike that I won at the triathlon, I didn't know how to use it. I never seen anything that fancy. I'm used to an old school mountain bike from the early 90s. So I brought my bike in, they taught me how to use it, shift the gears and all that. And I was at the time still driving. I did a run for Founders, a local brewery here, and they would give me sample packs. I can't drink anymore because of the blood thinners, so I don't really miss it anyway. But I had, at one point, I had about 300 cans of beer in my fridge. So I brought them a couple cases down there as a thank you for helping me fix that bike. Holy crap, you'd have thought I walked on water. I mean, and it's good beer too, just something little like that. Shoveling the neighbor's driveway. Two of my neighbors are elderly, older ladies in their 80s. So I check on them every now and then. It's not, I just want to make sure they're okay, because that's what's important. It's not how pretty your yard is. Are your neighbors doing okay? I mean, is there anything I can help you with? Or just stuff like that. It just means more. Maybe it's because I felt like I've wasted some of my years in some of these frivolous pursuits, chasing after the wind, the Bible calls it. But I want to do things that matter. That things that are important, like you were saying, in the book there.
Yeah, I think that's a solid ending note right there.
Okay.
Just do things that matter, and pay it forward and help other people, and don't worry about what you're getting out of it. Just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Do the right thing to do, and it's always going to come back to you. Yes.
I like it. All right, my friend.
Great.
This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we did this.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I'll catch you next time.